deep shot. He's got a touchdown.
And Mahomes at bay.
The Tampa Bay Bucs, Super Bowl 55.
Hello and welcome to the Bucs Banter podcast. I am your host, Collin Scott, and I am only joined by my co-host, Scott Capron, this evening. We are here without our third co-host, Bo Danyard, as he is on vacation in beautiful southwestern Ontario, Canada, which means we had the pleasure of spending some time with him in person this past weekend. So it was a necessary sacrifice for the betterment of team chemistry amongst the Bucs Banter podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Boom, what's up? Thanks for having me. Funny that we actually get to see Bodan for the first time in however long, and he's as close to us physically as he has been in however long, and he's not on the podcast. But I guess, hey, that's just how it goes sometimes.
Exactly. So today's agenda, we are going to breeze over discussing the last preseason game, an embarrassing loss for the Buccaneers to the Tennessee Titans, but it is preseason, so who cares? Before digging into our final division preview, we've previewed every division in the NFL, and of course, the only one we have yet to preview on the Bucs Banter podcast is the NFC South. Had to save that one for last. Again, a little sad Bo is in here, but I'm sure next week during our show he'll have watched this and hit on anything we missed on or criticize us however he may. Before we get into that, though, please do us a solid. If you enjoy the show, we would love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel, Bucs Banter. All of our podcasts are available there, as well as audio streaming on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So, first things first, what's up with the Bucs? Well, I already mentioned it, preseason annihilation. It's been talked about a lot here on Bucs Report, amongst other places. But as Bruce Arians himself said, he's looking at individual players. I mean, I'm sure he was pissed off. It was a serious drubbing. But regardless, there are some things to take away. And most notably for me, aside from the fact that Joe Tryon has added a hyphenated, he's changed his last name, so we can't refer to him specifically as Joe Tryon, but it's Joe Tryon Shoyinka. I believe his dad's name. I don't understand the family dynamics exactly, but regardless, Joe Tryon Shoyinka was very impressive in all facets of that game, and I think he jumped out at a lot of people. He has so far in both the preseason games. He just looked. I don't know if you caught any of what he did, Scott, but he's looking pretty NFL ready right now.
Yeah, and that's just exactly what I was going to say. I mean, you can kind of tell right away the guys who you don't have to write people off immediately especially their first preseason or even their first season in the NFL that they're not long for the league. But he's just an NFL player. He's a pro player. Takes zero knowledge to realize that anyone who, if you just plop them in front of a TV and said, oh yeah, how long has this guy been playing? It doesn't matter. Anyone would know that he's immediately ready to contribute. And a bit of a power move by adding that extra last name there right before the season. The equipment team is getting all the jerseys ready. They got to redo that. Now, I mean, hey, more power to you. Do whatever you want there, Joe. You can call yourself whatever you want. But, very interesting. But, yeah, like you said, from the football side, I mean, just adding another contributor. And, how pumped are you?
Yeah, I'm super pumped, especially because, JPP's been around a long time, still very productive. But he was really banged up last year playing through it. Just for it to be at the edge rusher position, to have that extra rotational piece to spell JPP and Shaq Barrett. And as we talked about with JCA on last week's episode or 2 weeks ago, they're going to find ways to get all three of those guys on the field at once.
Oh.
I mean, Tryon showed the guys over at Real Bucs Talk, who do a great podcast and tons of awesome film breakdown for Bucs Report and through their own channel. They did a nice little summary of Tryon's performance, and just seeing how he drops into coverage. He's incredibly agile. It's not like a guy that size should be able to move that way.
Oh my God, I know.
And that's something that Todd Bowles values greatly. So he's going to be an asset there as well, considering how smooth he looked, dropping into coverage as a 6'5", 275, 80-pound DN.
God, imagine him as a high school basketball player too. I'm just assuming he played. Probably just an absolute unit, doing a little bit of everything. But just the way you said, the way you mentioned that call about getting those three guys on the field, just puts even more pressure on the opposing offenses to be productive on first and second down. Because an early penalty or a negative play on first down, and you get yourself in third and medium or third and long against this. It's like, good luck. Someone's going to get to that quarterback, or the offense is going to have to make a real play just to have a chance at getting a first down. So just so valuable. Third down means everything in the NFL, both extending drives and getting off the field if you're on defense. And what a luxury. I know that's more of a general statement about the Bucs defensive line and their defense overall, but adding Tryon and I can't wait. I mean, I know we're going to talk about them extensively here, but very interesting.
Yeah, and like he looked great against the run too, like shedding blockers and just finding his way into the interior of the defense to clog things up. Like he's going to be effective there too, and add to what's been the most stout run defense in the NFL over the last 2 seasons. So
quick question. Now, I know I'm assuming most Bucs fans are super happy and are going to be happy with what happens this season with Joe Tryon. Who are you most? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot here, but I know you're going to have an answer. Who are you most worried about the Bucs passing on with their first pick? That's just going to be an all-pro, like perennial Pro Bowler type guy. Like, do you have anyone in your head that you're like, as much as I love the pick, I am worried that we missed out on this guy?
Yeah, it's funny. I definitely felt that way, I think, on draft night, but since then,
Don't say Travis Etienne either.
No, because he wasn't available. He was gone.
Oh, true. All right. Okay. Sorry. Well.
But he may have been someone I would have mentioned had that been the case. You're right. You know me well. A guy I profiled on bucsbanter.ca that I've had a thing for, and I'm sure lots of these Florida guys have, is Asante Samuel Jr. Can't have enough corners. He looks great in camp. And if he ends up being a number 1 corner in the NFL, I mean, that would have been pretty valuable. But we've got a bunch of young corners. We've invested so much in the draft, the Bucs have, in terms of that position early on. So I'm pretty, like, I honestly, like, at this point, I'm feeling pretty happy with Tryon.
And that's fair. That could totally be the answer. I just didn't know if there was one kind of glaring, outstanding guy that you were thinking about.
Owusu Koromoa was a guy I had my eyes on too, who also looks great. But we're just so set there. I like our safety group. I like our linebacker group. So just adding that edge rusher, he is definitely the best edge rusher available. And it looks like he could be the best of the group. So, Johnny Dean, nice to have you back here, buddy. He's saying Tryon was pretty much a lock in his opinion. He'll be the guy that other teams are pissed they missed on. I did have Joe Tryon going to the Bucs in my mock draft. I should say that as well.
There you go.
So then Drew Pagones, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Talk a little bit about Darden and how he has looked so far. I can't wait to see him get some opportunities with the first, second stringers to get a better idea of his impact. Yeah, we'll see like what happens in this final preseason game against the Texans. The starters are going to play a full half, according to BA. We'll see what happens with that. In terms of like how Darden's look, like I haven't been at training camp. We've had 2 guests who have spent a significant amount of time at training camp, both, with very solid reviews of Darden.
They're both excited about him.
Yeah. And it sounds like Brady's really taken a liking to him as well. I read a nice piece by Peter King, Monday Morning Quarterback, who paid a visit to Bucs training camp. And a lot of it was about Darden and how Tom Brady has really spent a lot of time providing tutelage to Darden specifically, and emphasizing the importance of having that not top 3 receiver, but a guy you're likely going to have to lean on at a point in the season. And the article referenced, how Tyler Johnson came up with huge catches down the stretch last year, Scotty Miller. Those aren't your top 3 receivers, but those are guys who, when it matters most, you often have to depend on, whether it's because it's an unexpected play or just the way the defense is playing you. So I think it sounds like Darden's looked good. I'm most anxious to see how he's handling kicks when the season gets going. I think in terms of playing as a receiver. He'll get some looks this year for sure, and we'll see how that happens.
The hard thing is with on this team is he may look good and he may even earn Brady's trust and all that, but it's just going to be hard to really be a huge contributor offensively, right? Doesn't mean that he can't have moments, like you said, maybe in the return game, but just when there's so many other guys to throw the ball to, it's going to be hard for him. But hey, who knows? Let's see what he does. Maybe he shocks everyone and becomes a third target or whatever, and we'll see.
Yeah, I just want to see the flashes. I want him to be productive. It's hard. It can be hard, right, when you're not in a rhythm all the time. But
for sure,
no one better for him to learn under than the deepest, most talented receiving core in the NFL and the greatest quarterback of all time. I'd say Darden's in a pretty good position to realize his potential, and when that happens, we will just have to see.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I just mentioned, the Monday morning quarterback Albert Breer, who's also a part of that. Him and Peter King, both two national NFL guys, both came away extremely impressed after paying a visit to one Buccaneer place over the last week. I think they were there for the joint practices with the Titans. And it's funny because the way that Bruce is talking and a lot of the local coverage makes you think, they're highlighting some of the issues going on or players not stepping up. But those guys, two national guys, completely objective, like Scott Capron is here. He's not a Bucs fan, folks. Don't forget it, right? He adds a lot of value, so he can give us that outsider opinion. That's why we love you, Scott.
Just unbelievable credibility. Just just through the roof here. So you're welcome, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. But those guys were both like super impressed, talking about the state of the Buccaneers and how they look and just the general vibe coming out of training camp. So I'd say that's nice to see. I like hearing it more from the national guys who only pay a quick visit and see a bunch of different training camps. If they're going out of their way to say that, that's always nice. But I'm just so ready for real football. It's time. So it'll be good. It'll be good on Saturday to get to watch a full half of the first stringers, because you do need some kind of tune-up. The Bucs have already had a lot more of a tune-up opportunity than they did last year.
Yeah.
Everything going on. So that's got to be the most exciting thing, the continuity piece, the familiarity with the offense, bringing everyone back, stuff we have talked about ad nauseum here on Bucs Banter. Another cool thing I'm sure a lot of people have been following along is just the NFL top 100 players voted by the players. Like, I always enjoy seeing that. It's kind of cool. I almost wish like the NBA did that too, just so you get, with the players. I don't know what percentage of the players actually vote, but it seems to be.
I think it's a good representation. Like, I think it's a good enough sample, and it shows you who the players really respect too, right? Like, it's a little bit different than maybe what a front office poll would turn out, and just seeing what the players value and who they play against and who they really think is at the top of the league, right? So it's also so interesting, those lists, because like obviously football, the positions are so different, how you value them and how you compare a running back versus a safety and who's bet. It's just a hard kind of list to curate, right? So it's funny it's cool just to see a list like that and to see who actually comes up to the top.
Totally agree. Tristan Wirfs, as a rookie, he made he came in at 89. So I'll just say the names of the Bucs. Who got Wirfs was 89, Shaq Barrett was 88, Chris Godwin 81, coming off a bit of an injury riddled year, not what I expect from him this year. JPP came in at 59, Mike Evans 48, Levante David 43, Devin White 28, and the top 10 is yet to be unveiled. That's happening at some point in the next week, and I'm quite confident we will see Tom Brady's name somewhere in there. In terms of just that list, like what you were talking about, you're right. The differences of opinion of positions, it's always interesting to see how they're valued by guys in the league. I was surprised to see Shaq Barrett 29 spots below JPP on the list. Like, if you ask me, like, he's the more valuable edge rusher, bookend for the Bucs, that's for sure, and more in the prime of his career. So there, there's an example. It's probably because JPP has earned so much respect amongst his peers, rightfully so.
Yeah, that seems like a bit of a, veteran presence, throwing him one kind of thing. No offense to JPP, but yeah, for Barrett to be that much further down the list was shocking to me as well.
And like Devin White wasn't on the list last year. He's at 28, third highest linebacker.
It shows you.
He's ahead of Darius Leonard by the players. I mean, that's a hell of a player to be ranked ahead of. So the future is still bright for Devin. You know how I feel about Devin White.
Yeah, and I also feel like you've mentioned a few anecdotes on here about like players coming up to him and saying he's the best in the league, and then like there you go, then it's actually coming out in this, right? Like to jump up to 28 after you're after not being on the list, like that's really saying something, right? And it makes sense. Just even those couple mentions that you threw out there.
Yeah, and they showed the McCaffrey during the video. They showed the McCaffrey telling him he's the best in the game. So Devin White, man, great combination of confidence. At points, I'm like, is he too confident? Like, is he cocky? Like, too arrogant? Is this going to be a problem? But then I'm just hearing him talk, like, because they interview him. He's quite an engaging character and personality, and he's also at the same time pays his dues and his respects to like the other guys at his position. So I just like to see that as well.
Yeah, and he should be cocky. As long as he's not a complete dick, then that's fine. Like, He is that good, and he needs to carry himself to be that good, right? However, whatever mind frame these guys need to get into to play their best, do it, right? That's what, like, I don't know. You have to tell yourself whatever. Then, I mean, that's how I had to do it with any sport that I ever played. I know that. I had to lie to myself in a lot of cases and just be like, all right, you're the best out here. Let's go, even though I knew that I wasn't. But you got to try, right?
100%, man. You're right. Yeah. It's all about a balance.
Yeah.
Drew on Facebook says, I heard word that Bowles might be coming up with a defensive package that includes JPP, Barrett, and Tryon. Trying to envision what it would look like. I'm sure it will be a nightmare for opposing QBs. We talked about that a couple episodes ago. We totally agree. That's definitely going to happen. Most likely seeing JPP kick in and just kind of assume like a defensive tackle role, amongst the front four, and have Tryon and Shaq Barrett on the edges. Maybe Vita Vea occupying the nose tackle there.
Drew's asking what it would look like. He said, "I'm sure it'll be a nightmare. I'm sure it'll look like a nightmare." That's pretty much. It's sorry. I just wanted to get this out there because we get to talk about all this good stuff because the Bucs are legitimately very good and won the Super Bowl last year. Just there are like. Let's call the Bucs and the Chiefs their own tier, and I think both fan bases have every right to be excited and like expecting a Super Bowl appearance basically this year. Maybe throw the Bills in there as well. We just get to be talking about this great team. Like there's a lot of sad franchises out there that are like, probably worried that the season is about to start because they have to watch their goddamn team play 17 Sundays, right? And it's just like, oh, wow, what a joy. Collin, you can probably, speak to this because you've been a Bucs fan for so long. But it's like, oh, no, they're just going to be very good. And I'm actually looking forward to games. And it's not like crippling anxiety before they play, knowing that you have no idea what's going to happen.
And all my fellow Bucs fans, they deserve it,
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure it is. In fact, I don't know how much that's changed since this most recent Super Bowl, but the losingest franchise in the four major professional sports from a winning percentage point of view. So Bucs fans deserve that, and I'm sure everyone in this chat, everyone who watches the show and follows the podcast, feels the same way. They deserve it. So good on you, Bucs fans. You guys soak it in, is what Scott's telling you.
Exactly. It doesn't last forever, and it's a hard league, man. It's hard to stay relevant, and it's hard to keep churning out playoff appearances. That's for sure.
Yeah. Cole Eli Pfeiffer on Facebook says, what two interior linebackers are better than White in the NFL? It's a great question. One that in our like group text we talk about all the time. I sent out a thing today where an ESPN article where they actually polled NFL personnel people, GMs, scouts, stuff like that for this specific discussion point. And actually Devin White was number one. So in the opinions of general managers and decision makers in the NFL, he is considered number one. If you ask Pro Football Focus, they're going to have him at like 20 something, which I find absurd, but you take that for what it's worth. On the top 100, though, the two who were rated higher were Bobby Wagner and Fred Warner. Those are the two linebackers just ahead of them.
I mean, hard to argue, I would say. I think you're kind of splitting hairs between those three guys. I mean, they were 28, 25, and 21 on the list, so it's pretty close. But yeah, like the guest said, I don't know how many Bucs fans are taking anyone over Devin White, and quite frankly, you can't blame them. That's for sure.
Definitely would not for the rest of their careers. So let's watch this season play out, and then we'll check back on that list a year from now.
Exactly.
Several people in the chat bringing up Levante David's name. Obviously, I agree. I mean, Levante David came in at 43 on the list. He's so dynamic. He's so great. So perennially underrated. I wrote an article, The Legend of Levante. That's up on bucsbanter.ca, where I break down some of the stats that justify just how special of a player he is. Great to see him win a Super Bowl this past year. We all know Levante is the man. And I kind of like when he's being slept on. It's better. Keep sleeping on Levante. He'll just keep showing you more and keep adding to his legacy. So
kidding.
That's how I tend to look at it with Levante David.
For sure. He's one of those guys you can tell that motivates him, and get him angry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Get him angry. Get him to send out some washed king tweets like LeBron, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. See, and he's an example of a guy who's a little more on the humble side. He likes to have his play doing the talking, which makes him and Devin White such a nice tandem. I think their personalities mesh really well. Mm-hmm. He's kind of like the wise veteran linebacker who's incredibly adept at every aspect of the game for a linebacker, against the pass, against the run, creating turnovers. He can blitz, just absolutely everything. He shut down Travis Kelce in the Super Bowl, which everyone said was not possible for any linebacker. So that was one of my favorite parts of that entire Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We'll see where Brady comes in on the top 10, though. We'll see. It doesn't matter. He's in the top 10. We'll see. I'm curious.
Pretty impressive to still be there, and rightfully so, by the way. This isn't like a legend. Like, this isn't some sort of legacy pick or anything. Like, he should be there.
Yeah, give him a training camp this year. Let's see what he can do. Same roster.
No
healthy AB. So much to be excited about. Can't come soon enough, and I won't stop saying that. Christopher Cole, what's up, my guy? He's here on Facebook checking us out. Appreciate it.
What's up, bud?
Winfred, nice to have you here. Keith, Johnny Dean already mentioned. Bunch of good people. Tapasio on YouTube checking in. Just trying to catch up on a couple of these, Scott. Hi, the NFL is hard. Brady has been relevant for 21 years, so it's not hard for him, the greatest QB. I would say he's been more than relevant. Last person to go back-to-back as a Lombardi winning quarterback, too. So we'll see if he's up to that challenge.
I think even Brady would maybe say that it's been hard, but he's been able to persevere. But I get where he's going with it. And, if the Bucs have Brady, then they're in good shape is what he's saying. But, yeah.
And then before we move on, Drew with another good thing that I'm glad you brought up. So Drew on Facebook says, I know Suckup is our guy, talking about the Bucs kicker, Ryan Suckup, coming off a great season and obviously has the experience. He will be our starter, and I agree with that. Is there any way we will be able to keep our rookie kicker? Hurdy is impressing everyone and has a strong leg. He's been crushing it. Jose Borregales. He has been absolutely crushing it, and Suckup has had some struggles in training camp from what I've heard from those on the ground. So that is interesting. They just paid Suckup a pretty healthy salary for a kicker. There's no way he's not going to be our starter. But in terms of if they could, I mean, the chances are, to be honest, if they try and stash him on the practice squad, he's going to get scooped up by someone based on his performance in training camp is my guess. He's got a big leg too. So kind of a tough, frustrating situation. But as long as Ryan Suckup's dialed in this year again, then who cares? We don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, even if you have that second guy in your system, it's just not worth it for a roster spot, obviously. And Suckup is a tough last name, eh? Like, truly one of the worst. I feel like it doesn't get brought up enough.
But perfect for a kicker, and he has brought it up himself. He's referred to himself as a kicker named Suckup. So
yeah, that's so fair. That's good. I remember Pitt. I think it was Pitt in college. They had a kicker named Blewett. Thought that was a bit of a tough scene. Probably wouldn't want to be like, literally, I think it was Blewitt. Like, come on, be anything else. Like, that's no good. But
That's the worst I've heard. I'm glad.
it was unbelievable. I remember, I think it was like Pitt Clemson. I was watching, like, there's no way. That's because the announcer said something about blew it. It was like the play hasn't happened yet. Like, nothing's going on. And the kicker rolls out. I'm like, oh God, this guy's got no shot. Like, just go for it. Seriously.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think you just knowing Arians, I would assume they would just roll with suck up and then, kind of chalk it up to too bad. Hopefully that the young guy gets his spot somewhere else.
Agreed. Jason Drywall, Bucs going back to back. I hope you're right, Jason. We hope to see that. We'll see, man. We'll see. I mean, you got to be fearful as well as a Bucs fan. Just fearful of the like honeymoon thing. Like just deep inside. You just don't want anything. You don't want them to be too arrogant, but it doesn't seem like they are. I'm just speaking my own insecurities.
Yeah, that's okay. Jason Drywall probably just get off the golf course if I know our listeners at all. So I don't know. Maybe it was talked about on the course. Maybe a few future bets were placed on like the 14th hole. Who knows?
Yeah. And then a question coming in from Drew again. Do you see a season where Stinnie beats out Kappa? Well, if it's a season, I don't think it's going to be this season. A report came out. I think it was on Pewter Report, well-written article. I can't recall who wrote it, but just kind of bringing up the idea because Bruce Arians had said, it's a battle between Alex Kappa and Stinnie for that right guard spot. I personally think he's just trying to put a little heat on Kappa. Kappa's received a lot of praise over the last 2 years, rightfully so. He's been highly productive and just quietly going about his business at right guard. He's up for a new deal after this year, so I think having Stinnie around is nice. They want Stinnie to feel good and valued as well because there's a good chance the Bucs are not going to be able to pay Alex Kappa the salary he's going to command if he continues to have a good year. He is going to be our starter at right guard. I feel pretty confident about that. But I would be okay with Stinnie being his replacement because he had a hell of a showing down the stretch last year. But another good one to bring up, Drew. So thank you for that. But we do have another item on the agenda. We have to actually break down every team in the NFC South as we have done for every other division in the NFL. We've talked about every team except these three. Obviously, we talk about the Bucs every week.
Carl, can I mention one thing before we get into the division thing?
I would love for you. Yes.
I just want to address what Andy Dalton said the other day at his press conference, saying, Justin Fields is going to have a great career, but it's my time right now. Like, it's literally not his time. Like by all measures, as soon as Fields is ready, it is his time. Like, I know he's trying to speak it into existence. Like, I do the same thing on a daily basis. It's like, oh, maybe I'll actually, like, get a good sleep tonight. I don't know. Maybe the Jays will sneak into the playoffs, stuff like that. Like, I know it's not going to happen. I still say it. So maybe he's just trying to exude some confidence. Andrew Dalton, it is not your time. You do not look good. And it's just one of those things. I know he has to say it. What's he supposed to do? Go up there and say, "Oh, I'm not looking so great. I guess we'll see how many games I start." I get it. But come on, Andy. Come on.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, no Kappa on cool points being awarded for that.
Absolutely none.
I'm glad you acknowledge the fact he's got to say it, something like that, because he's been getting shit on by the Bears fans, understandably so. I mean,
yeah, and like, he's one of the top 0.01 percentile of quarterbacks in the world. Of course, he has an ego, and of course, all of that. Like, yeah, no worries. I totally understand it. He's a competitor, and it's not like he's completely washed up age-wise or anything like that. But, oh, dude, how's that going to go for you in week 4 when you're holding the clipboard and, you're wearing that beautiful Bears hat? Right? Like, just be ready for it is all I would say.
Well said. Let's talk about as we discuss underwhelming quarterback play. Let's discuss an aging quarterback play. Let's discuss the Atlanta Falcons coming off a 4-12 season. Got rid of Thomas Dimitroff, their longtime general manager. They got a new head coach, relatively new head coach, Arthur Smith. I mean, they obviously just lost Julio Jones, which they had to do because they've been in just cap purgatory along with the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, those two franchises are in different places, but things I like are Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley, Young Hoku, their kicker. I dig him. I actually like the Mike Davis signing for them coming over from Carolina, running back staying in the division. I think he's going to be a sneaky fantasy pick for any of you fantasy footballers out there. I'm sure there's quite a few. But in terms of the Falcons, not too much to get excited for outside of Kyle Pitts. I think Matt Ryan will still do a great job of realizing Kyle Pitts' ability. Like, it's not like he's like Matt Ryan is still, it's not like he's like awful. He's just paid so much and was so great at a point that I think that affects the general view of him as a quarterback. But he's going to do just fine getting the ball to Kyle Pitts. And Kyle Pitts scares the shit out of me as a Bucs fan. Because I think all of the incredible praise he has received as potentially the greatest receiving tight end prospect to ever enter the league since like Mike Ditka or whatever. And I'd say he's got a leg up as a pass catcher on Mike Ditka. Maybe. But I think it's warranted. I think he's that talented. Like, I think he's going to be in for a big rookie year. But all I really feel like talking about is a couple of their individual players because I don't expect a lot from the Falcons this year.
Me neither, man.
Yeah.
Me neither. Like, it's the same thing with them. They're teams that find ways to lose, and you can't play defense. And even though I think Matt Ryan's pretty good, he just is a killer turnover machine at vital times. And I just don't think they've been the same since the Super Bowl loss. And now they don't have Julio Jones anymore. Like, as much as I like Ridley and Pitts, you can take those guys away, and you can make these other guys beat you, like Russell Gage. I don't know. I like Mike Davis fine, but is he scaring? Is he a huge threat at running back? Like, maybe he is, and like you said, maybe he's a fantasy sleeper, and he busts out this year. I just don't see it from them at all. Like, they're such a frustrating team to watch, and they have a new coach, which matters because I think a lot of the frustration was with Dan Quinn and just how everything was done there. Some very questionable decision making, and I know Falcons fans have been talking about, even though they love Julio, but he's been hurt, and it's okay to lose. It's just such a threat and such a productive guy to lose. I just don't see how they're better than last year. I don't. And to me, it's not. To me, it's one year older for Matt Ryan. And I know it's not like he's, banking on his agility or athleticism in order to stay in the league or stay relevant. It's none of that. I don't know. They're such a freaking milquetoast, run-of-the-mill team to me. You all right there?
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry.
I don't know. No excitement for me for them whatsoever, except for literally Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, like I only want to talk about them from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah,
that's all I see. Like, go ahead and draft Young Hoku as your fantasy kicker. Like, they're.
Yeah,
and I don't like. They're a rebuilding team, but Matt Ryan's their quarterback. Like, this might have been a good offseason to see. I don't know if there would have been any interest at his price point. But maybe you eat some of that. But I think you got to commit to the rebuild a little stronger. You know what I mean? Like, just show your cards, take it that direction, because it feels like they've still been kind of clinging to competitiveness, maybe beyond their window, whereas they could have recouped some more assets had they decided to move on from, say, a Matt Ryan and a Julio Jones a year previous.
Yeah, like they were 4-12 last year. Like, not even 6-10 or certain. Like 4-12 is a tough look. Like, that's bad. I wouldn't expect them to be that bad last year. I know they had some tough game luck with a couple late losses and what have you. But I don't know, man.
I know we'll talk win totals at the end.
Yeah.
But
we will.
The fact that Carolina and Atlanta are both set at 7.5, I think that's what I saw.
Yeah, I think
7.5 wins. Like, Carolina is going to win more games than Atlanta this year. Quote me on that.
That would be a bet if you could literally bet that. Just head to head, Carolina, Atlanta. I would love to take Carolina. Love.
Me too. And we'll get to that. I don't think we need to spend much more time on Atlanta. Like
Thoughts on
all
their
we need to know.
defense?
What's that?
Thoughts on their defense?
It's just nothing special. Like, there's just not enough impact guys. There's a lot of different. I mean, they had a defensive guy leading them, and their defense wasn't a major force. You know what I mean? So, like, they got a couple guys. AJ Terrell. I guess Dante Fowler Jr. is still a player. I like Deion Jones a lot at the linebacker position.
I like Deion Jones. Deion Jones.
And Grady Jarrett is really good.
Yeah,
but I don't know what to think of the secondary as a whole. Nothing that jumps out at me, man. I'm just not in love with this team in any which way aside from those two pass catchers.
No, I would be shocked if they made the playoffs. I know teams can kind of jump up and grab that last spot, but I don't see that at all.
Yeah, they won't win the playoffs. And Johnny Dean said he doesn't like that I said the Panthers would win more games than the Falcons. Sam Darnold over Ryan ? LM. Laugh my ass off. Okay, here's the thing, Johnny Dean. There's a lot more positions on a football field than that one. And I mean, I don't know if you remember, Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. So there are, it's not always about the quarterback. As much as I can acknowledge what you're saying there, I would say one still has a much higher ceiling moving forward based on his age and experience. But we'll talk about Sam Darnold very shortly. Christopher Cole comes in. I think this is also a specific troll to me because he knows how much I love Jamar Chase. Saying he picked up where he left off at LSU with the drops. I love how everyone's talking about Jamar Chase and his drops. Unfortunately, it sounds like Joe Burrow's struggling, but he's coming off a serious injury. So, but I think Jamar Chase is going to be just fine. I'm not worried for 1 second about his preseason. He's going to be a fantastic NFL receiver for many years. Not changing my stance on that one, Christopher. And then Jay Drywall, what are we expecting from OJ Howard this season? I would expect not to expect much, but hope for something. Coming off a torn Achilles, 3 really capable tight ends, including Tanner Hudson actually as a pass catcher too. So plenty of competition in the tight end room for the Bucs, including Rob Gronkowski, of course, and Cameron Brate. So he's not in a position where they need him to succeed, which I think could be actually very beneficial for him working his way back up to speed and hopefully maybe by the second half of the year. All I'll say is that him and Tom Brady had a really nice rapport last season, and things were looking like that was legit in terms of their connection. So, but I wouldn't expect a ton. We'll see what he can do, and hopefully he can get himself a contract somewhere after this season. If he can, realize his physical talent. Poor guy took a major hit last year, tearing his Achilles. That's a tough one for a young, skill position player who depends on his athleticism to sustain. Let's talk about the Carolina Panthers. They were 5-11 last year. New general manager Scott Fitterer coming over from Seattle. Head coach Matt Rule. So Johnny Dean, these are some of the reasons why I like the direction of the Panthers. I like the guys in charge. I like the franchise's team. Fitterer killed this draft. Absolutely smashed it out of the park, in my opinion. Grabbing guys like J.C. Horn, likely the best corner in the draft, along with Patrick Surtain. They got a steal in Terrace Marshall Jr. at LSU at wide receiver position in round 2. They got a quality offensive tackle out of BYU, Brady Christensen, in the 3rd round. They got Canadian boy Chuba Hubbard in the 4th, who I think is a really nice compliment behind McCaffrey, and I think they could end up using him.
Me too. He's just very good. I think he's ready. I think he'll be ready to run and contribute right away.
If Chuba declared for the draft the year before, he'd have been gone in the first 2 rounds. Yeah,
he's unbelievable. Like I love the pickup for them, and I'm looking at the depth chart now. They have Reggie Bonifon ahead of them on the running back depth chart. Don't see that lasting very long. No offense, Reggie, but that's a great point about Hubbard. I mean,
ESPN has Chuba second, so I'm sure it just depends where you look.
There you go. So it just depends. So that's good for him. So obviously, I mean, it starts with Darnold, but like you said, they're more of a well-rounded squad, I think, or it's not going to be completely on Darnold's shoulders to make this team relevant, but they've kind of had to patch it together at the quarterback spot the last few years, right? Some Newton turmoil, obviously, when he was still there. They have the ultimate replacement, basically the Keanu Reeves of the NFL now. Teddy Bridgewater, who played last year, just popping in and playing, and then leaving again for Denver here. But like where were you with Darnold and the Jets in general? Like, how much do you think, oh my goodness, this guy can't play, versus anyone there is going to suck?
Yeah, more the latter.
Me too.
I don't think
Me
it's
too.
fair to judge Sam Darnold off what he was dealing with in New York from a
Me
coaching
too.
perspective, from a personnel perspective. So that's obviously where like Johnny Dean in the comments and I differ, and you're with me too. I almost feel like he's like a rookie who has experience with the NFL now. Like it's just, I just don't see it like fair. I don't know who could have succeeded in the state of that franchise from when they drafted him, the players they put around him, how he was coached, the instability of the roster and the coaching staff. Right? Like it was just
Adam Gase, Gase might be one of the worst coaches that we've seen in the league, honestly, in the last X amount of years. He's that bad. And, offensive guy, you get that label. Gee, you better do something, man. And they were terrible and hard to watch. Play calling was bad. And hey, Darnold wasn't great. I'm not going to say it was, the team was completely holding him back, blah, blah, blah. But I'm way more in the, he got to a new conference, totally new situation, and a coach that everyone seems to really like in Matt Rule.
I love Matt Rule.
Yeah, let's see what he can do. I'm high on what Darnold's potential is for this year. Fully ready to maybe to be wrong, and if he sucks again, and then maybe he just can't play. Then you know what? Then we'll know after this fresh start and everything. But I don't know, man. Like, I like DJ Moore. Obviously, they have such an unbelievable jack of all trades in McCaffrey for Darnold to use, and out of the backfield, line him up in the slot if you need to as an outlet, and then obviously just as a standard running back. So, like, I'm excited about the Panthers. I am.
I know. And like, I'm excited about the roster too. Like literally probably the best draft that I would grade. At least it's a top 3 draft. Like they also got Davion Nixon, defensive tackle out of Iowa. Cap, you're probably familiar with him.
Yeah.
In the 5th round. That's one of the steals of the entire draft. He's a complete bulldog. He's going to be a really good NFL player, I think. In the 5th round, that's insane. Yeah. And they grabbed Shi Smith, that receiver out of South Carolina, in the 6th. So just incredible job by Fitterer, top to bottom, to address potential impact players at all different positions, which I just find the team has done well. They like speed is Matt Rule's thing since he was at Baylor, and they've got speed all over the place. And just a bit like I really like DJ Moore, and I also really like Robbie Anderson, and I think Terrace Marshall Jr. is in a great situation there as well. So they got the skill position players. So Darnold won't have much of an excuse after at least a year playing under Matt Rule. I see a pretty solid improvement from the Panthers. That's why I'm feeling like they're going to be better than Atlanta. It's not like I'm saying they're going to be, I'm worried about them as a Bucs fan. I'm just generally, as a state of the franchise from an objective lens, I like where they're at. But similar to like teams like the Broncos and Washington football team, they have nice pieces. And again, early in that process still compared to those teams. But their success will depend on the consistency of their quarterback play. So Darnold will have to show it was more of a dysfunctional system than a dysfunctional quarterback.
Yeah, but I still don't think he has to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I don't. Like, I would like to see improvement from him in general, just because. Why not? Let's get another good quarterback in here. But I don't think he has to light the world on fire for Carolina to be, knocking on the playoff door. I'm counting 8 of their 11 losses as 1-score games last year. Now, that's a little bit cherry picked. There's a couple 8-point losses, which technically counts as a 1-score game, obviously. And, I didn't go through all the game logs. There might be a couple backdoor late game, cosmetic touchdowns. But still, 8 of your 11 losses within 1 score, flip a couple of those games and your season's completely different, right? 2 of the blowouts were to Tampa Bay, actually. So, it's not not terrible losses. They were 5-11, but they weren't an absolute dumpster fire or anything like that. And those are the types of teams I like to kind of hitch my wagon to for the next year. It's like their record wasn't great, but you didn't hate having money on Carolina, for example, last year, right? Like it wasn't so painful. And
they probably covered a good amount of those games.
Yeah.
As underdogs.
Yeah, and they have they have a whole new thing going with Darnold. Basically, just the second year of Rule. I think the defense is going to be good. Usually has been in the past, and I'd have to do it. Yeah, I'd have to take more of a look, but I like them.
In terms of their defense, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like they got some guys I really like there too. Like Brian Burns is an awesome edge rusher. He's going to be high up on that list that we talked about, the NFL Top 100 for years in the future. They got Derek Brown, who everyone knows from his days at Auburn. He was just an absolute monster. So he's entering his second year. Shaq Thompson's still around. They picked up Hassan Reddick, who we talked about during our NFC West preview, as a guy we like. So they got guys. They got Jeremy Chin back there, and now they got JC Horn. So that, like, they're just keep slowly and quietly adding nice pieces all over the place all at once. They're not like just hammering on one poor aspect of their team. And I think they've done it quietly. I like the team building.
Those are guys I like kind of individually on defense. You know what I mean? Like I like the Reddick pickup. I don't know. I just think they're going to be pretty good. We'll get into their win totals again. But
sounds like you and I are aligned, which again is why it's nice to have three of us. Maybe Bo would differ.
I know. So. Well, especially because I feel like there's been a lot of Carolina, Atlanta talk, specifically those two teams, because Tampa, obviously contender, and New Orleans has been kind of the cream of the crop in the division for so long. And then one of Atlanta or Carolina is usually popping up and being relevant. But give me the Panthers over the Falcons this year for sure. And also interesting to note that the Panthers' first game is against the Jets. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that is.
I think old Sammy boy will be just slightly pumped for that one. So that'll be weirdly intriguing TV, I think, with Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we'll be watching for Sunday.
Yeah, we're gonna have to pick. Hey, we're gonna have to. I'm sure we'll have multiple games going, but
yeah, lots of storylines that will be fun to follow.
I know.
All right. Well, every Buccaneers' favorite non-Buccaneer team. Let's talk about the New Orleans Saints.
Oh.
Coming off a 12-4 season, and they are technically the defending NFC South champions. Not like that really matters, but it's true. Just a little fuel the Bucs can add to the fire when that rivalry resumes this season. Which, of course, no matter the state of either of those franchises, the Bucs or the Saints, there will always be an intense rivalry. And they're in a tough place right now. They still have tons of like really elite players. Both sides of the ball. You got Kamara and Michael Thomas when he's healthy. Say what you will, but those are two elite players. And then on D, they got Lattimore, Demario Davis, Cam Jordan. Again, all elite at their respective positions at all three levels. They might have the best O-line in the NFL. I love the Bucs O-line, but I will say the Saints O-line of Teron Armstead and Ramczyk and Pete and Cesar Ruiz, Michigan boy Scott.
Oh yeah.
They got plenty of guys, and they got a good offensive head coach, Sean Payton. Say what you will about him, he's always been very creative and someone I fear in terms of big moments, him pulling something out of his hat that no one's expecting. He's just proven to be that way, and I'm not afraid to give him his respect just because he coaches a team I dislike. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the issues with them, of course, first of all, this Michael Thomas situation, which we've talked about, is just not a good look. I don't want to get into it again, so I'm not going to summarize. I'm sure anyone listening has an idea just about misreporting the injury and who's responsible for him committing to surgery so late. Now he's not going to be back until October, how things went last year, lots of issues there. They also just don't have a lot of cap flexibility moving forward. Like what the Bucs did this past season or this off season, Mike Greenberg and Jason Light and Jackie Davidson have put the Buccaneers in a position where, as Jason Light calls it, where they could use the credit card a little bit and borrow into some future years because they've been so forward thinking and so on the ball, staying within their budget, which is now just so amazing that it worked out for them, that the Bucs were able to do the unthinkable this offseason and re-sign everyone.
Yeah.
Just incredible. But so the Saints have done the opposite. They've been blowing up the visa. They have been blowing up the visa for years, and they're just clinging to life. You know, they're pulling some voidable years still and stuff like that to keep this core group together. I feel like Sean Payton's like not going to commit to a rebuild. Like he's going to burn that sucker down before, you know, he's not going to. I don't know. So that's just a big issue there. And then
no, it's true. Yeah, they've just been adding items to cart nonstop with the online shopping here with the credit card, right? Like it's basically been just a free for all for that team for however long now. So I don't know what to do with them, man. Like they deserve the benefit of the doubt. They were 12-4 last year. They lose Drew Brees, and he wasn't even vintage Drew Brees last year. Obviously, there was a drop off, but just in terms of confidence and steadiness and everything that he brought, like you said, the roster is still good. They still have guys all over the field and a coach that obviously deserves the benefit of the doubt. But I don't know. Like I said, this has been one of the more puzzling teams of the offseason for me. I guess I would lean towards them figuring out a competent quarterback situation and you know, making the playoffs from there. But I would not be surprised to see them slip below 500. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, it could go any which way.
Yeah,
sure.
really
what you
tough.
just said is true. And the fact they haven't committed to the quarterback yet. Like Sean Payton says he will, but like, what does that tell you? Like they still haven't. They had both those guys on the roster last season. I mean, they've been seeing them in practice for a long time. Brees missed a bunch of games. You know, I mean, if you want to execute a Sean Payton offense, I think, like, if it's me, I'm rolling Jameis out there, and if
Me too.
if he proves to be bad Jameis, then slide him on the bench. He can handle it. But like like Taysom Hill's better in that change of pace, like crafty, whatever you call it, hook and ladder offense. You know, just like running back, receiver, tight end, quarterback role. Anyway, just, you know, make him he's a gimmicky guy. He's not taking your team to the playoffs. So if they come out with Taysom Hill, I mean, I said it before. Whoever starts the year is probably not going to finish the year as the starter. It's going to switch at some point.
Oh yeah.
But I think you got to go with Jameis just based on the arm talent and him knowing the offense he's just a real quarterback at least.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good place to kind of start and end the argument. Like he's played quarterback in the NFL. Hill basically is not. Pretty unique situation here to have to deal with. I don't know. I don't know if it's some sort of weird head game that he's playing that Peyton's playing by not announcing the starter. Just feels like it's not going to go. Just feels like it's not going to go well. I think like Hill is dead set on being a starting quarterback in the NFL, despite not having done it before, and you know, being a good player in other spots on the field, like very valuable. But if your two choices are Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, and one of those two isn't instilling enough confidence in you to actually, you know, pick a starter, that's a tough spot to start the year for me. And there might have been no better. Well, it was right up there. But the Brees, it maybe would have been this way with anyone in Brees, but Brees and Michael Thomas really had something, like a true connection on the field. You know, you could see it when they played, looking each other off looking defenses off with their eyes and kind of making changes at the line, things like that. I think it's going to be quite the rude awakening for Michael Thomas to be playing with one of these two guys all of a sudden, not to mention whatever, you know, turmoil there is with the roster or with the coach in the front office with him.
He's gonna have to be playing with Jared Goff in Detroit, man. He's getting traded or something.
Yeah, I think so too. It sounds like I read something the other day that they had a productive meeting and water under the bridge, but like that's a pretty big public call out that he made on Twitter only a few weeks before the season. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's fine. Maybe it is water under the bridge and it was just a miscommunication. But I think a lot of their success is going to depend on what kind of rapport Thomas can have with whichever quarterback starts, and just his general, happiness with the organization, right? Because they're pretty thin at receiver after that. I don't know. Like, are you super pumped about Tre'Quan Smith or Marquez Callaway? Like, they're okay.
Yeah, like Smith is solid, but not like
solid.
You're right though. Like, yeah, and they're not going to have Thomas. Like, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Chris Hogan's in there.
Yeah,
Chris Hogan. Apparently, Winston hit him deep today.
Oh, playing football or just in general?
Playing football.
Oh, okay, cool.
Well, maybe Kamara. Maybe Kamara's gonna have a huge year because they're gonna have no choice but to throw him the ball 12 times a game.
We can talk about Alvin Kamara. He's just incredible. Maybe my favorite guy to watch. Actually,
he's very fun to watch. I mean, not for me as a Bucs guy, okay, but
no.
Get over that. Trying to Kamara, his feet. He's like a ballerina, man, and his hand. He has great hands. See, here's the thing. I expected, like, I was just riding Kamara for over receptions and over yards receiving last year, and it was just a moneymaker. And then when Breeze went down, I was like, oh my God, Taysom Hill's gonna have to check down to him even more, like, because he can't throw. Didn't happen. He got like 2 targets in like 4 weeks or whatever. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah,
and that just threw me for a loop. I'm like, you should be depending on dumping it down to Kamara and letting him do the work for you,
Yeah, maybe Hill was trying to push the ball down the field a little bit more to prove that he could. But anyway, just another fascinating team because they've been such a mainstay and, true, like, what a run they've had basically since they won the Super Bowl, and a couple years before that they were in the playoffs as well. It's just like fantastic team. The Peyton Breeze combo is obviously incredible, but this could be the first year of a potential slippery slope. I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, well said. Anyone in the comments, feel free to chime in. I'm surprised we're blowing up with Saints hate, but I think that runs rampant on Bucs Report and all other Buccaneers social media avenues all year round. So okay,
that'll be interesting to play when Tampa goes to the Dome to play them.
Yeah, it will be.
That'll be huge.
And then add the Jameis narrative, and there's just so much. Like, but last year was perfect. Like the Saints smashing the Bucs twice, and then in Louisiana, that was amazing. Okay. Last but not least, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Feels kind of funny to like preview the team that we talk about every single week. But I guess we'll be repeating ourselves a little bit. I mean, we got to at least mention what's going on. Did I miss anything there, Cap?
No, I think you're good.
Okay, you gave me a look. I was like, am I?
No. Sorry.
Is there a 5th team in the division?
I was just checking the see who won the golf playoff. To be
who won?
Honest. Cam Smith. No, sorry, Finau. Finau finally won.
Good for him, man.
After Smith hit one out of bounds on the first playoff hole, so it was pretty gifted to him.
Was it just the 2 of them? Did Rahm fall out?
Yeah, Rahm, brutal last 4 or 5 holes, 1 over, didn't get into the playoff.
Well, he's had lots of fun winning golf, so I don't feel bad for him. I'm happy for Tom.
I know, but he hasn't even shown any sign of like collapse at all lately. And then he finally shown a little hitch in the step here today. That was fascinating. Good for Finau. Good for Finau.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening to Golf Banter here on the Golf Channel. Just kidding.
We're gonna be back with European Tour picks on Wednesday morning, so get ready.
But yeah, like Tampa Bay Bucs. I mean, what more is there to say about the team? They're bringing everyone back. They've got the continuity as mentioned. Everything is great, and that's just the only thing that I was alluding to earlier, Scott, talking about like my insecurity. It's like it seems almost too perfect. I'm just like, I don't know. I'm a Bucs fan, man, and
I get it, but hey, if this helps from the outside looking in, because I have no emotional investment other than I think it'll be more fun to talk about them all year if they're good. Although it'll be entertaining if for whatever reason they suck. I don't see that happening. They're really good, and they were not a fluke Super Bowl champion, and they earned it. and they have earned this this preseason hype as one of the top 2 teams in the league. So they're freaking phenomenal. I can't wait to talk about them. Can't wait to see. Just can't wait to watch this offense. I mean, the defense is amazing too, but I love seeing how Brady spreads the ball around, seeing if we get a resurgent year from Antonio Brown, seeing if, that extra year and actual preparation, a training camp that Brady's going to get with these guys just to see what happens. Brady is kind of the thing that everything revolves around, right? He's one of the most important players in NFL history, one of the best players in NFL history, and he's on your team. And it's just as he goes, they'll go, and just to see how the relationships develop and how everything grows on the field is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, exactly. So high expectations, but a super well-rounded roster, and like tons of areas where people can improve. Like you mentioned, Antonio Brown's possible resurgence from a health perspective. He seems spry as ever. Like that's just a massive thing, right? Like he came
Great
in.
word. He does seem spry.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
So like that's just nuts, like I'm not even rattled if one of those guys misses a few weeks. It might be good for the confidence of the other guys, and that's how loaded they are. And yeah, like the secondary being so young, like they really came on last year. Guys like Mike Edwards and obviously Antoine Winfield Jr. and Sean Murphy Bunting and Jordan Whitehead, Carlton Davis is young. They're all so young, playing under the same DC. So Todd Bowles coming back is so big for that group, man. I can't believe he didn't get poached for a head coaching gig. I don't know if Todd Bowles is cut out to be a head coach, but he is an unbelievable defensive coordinator. So I'm just to have him back in that role is arguably as important as any of the players. You could argue.
Isn't it so funny? Like there's such different skill sets being a coordinator versus a head coach, yet one is considered the pinnacle, and it's certainly from an ego perspective, like that's what you're trying to get. Not even saying these like you have a big ego, but like that's what you're progressing to, and you're basically the CEO. You're such a specialist as a coordinator to be able to really get your hands in there. Some people, I wish it wasn't perceived as a knock. You know what I mean? Like
the Monty Kiffin route. Just own it. Just be the best coordinator ever.
It's not a bad thing, and honestly, they're just 2 completely separate jobs. And because you're good at one doesn't mean you're going to be good at the other, or vice versa, right? Or if you're bad at one, you're going to be bad at the other. So, anyway, sorry, but for Bowles, maybe like his track record as a defensive, genius basically is kind of speaking for itself at this point. And like you said, just the continuity. It's such an insane league, right? Like everything changes all the time. There's no continuity. Rosters change, coaching staffs change, and for them to just bring everything back and to just be ready to go is so good, and just such a huge step for them for wherever they're going to go this year.
Yeah, like my biggest concern really is probably Leftwich and his development as a play caller. And, he showed the ability last year to change his philosophy a little bit and start to use pre-snap motion and play action more frequently. There's been conflicting reports about in the media from how he's addressed that question specifically in his pressers compared to Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians more or less said, "Hell yeah, we'll be putting way more stuff in, lots of more movement that we've been practicing." Whereas Leftwich was just like, no, we don't need to do that. We do what works. So I'm just hoping that, I'm sure that's all just smoke, right? Like you got to talk all the time. What are you supposed to say? Exactly. I just want to see Leftwich. Like he gets lots of hype as like a head coaching candidate. Well, Todd Bowles is just quietly there, like running this phenomenal program on the defensive side of the ball. I want to see more from Leftwich. I want to see him take the next step and really develop a comfortable rhythm, and not be too predictable, running on first down every time your team gets the ball. Like that drives me nuts.
Oh, it's the worst. It's so painful.
Yeah, and he does it a lot, man. At least
it's terrible.
He really does. So I would love to see him just change some of his tendencies a little bit, which he did do towards the end of last year, and look what happened. So hopefully he can be a little more flexible. But I'm sure Tom Brady will have plenty of input on how the offense is designed. I'm sure they're more or less doing it together with Bruce Arians, who's an offensive guy as well. My personal philosophy, I always like to have a head coach who's an offensive guy. Personally, I don't know.
Yeah, me too. In general, just for I think there's more overlap there, and just like in terms of actually calling the game or organizing your game, I think that's more conducive to an offensive coach. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything there. I'm more concerned. I want my coaching staff to have a clear delineation of, is the offensive coordinator explicitly calling the plays? Where's the head coach's input and how much is that? Because I don't know, man. Like, every team is a little bit different, and it's like, can someone explain to me why a team has an offensive coordinator when the head coach calls the plays?
Really true.
Seriously, it's ridiculous, and the hierarchies of these teams have kind of never made sense to me. I actually made a note on Twitter about that the other day. It's like, who does what? And so you're the GM, but that's the director of player personnel. Okay, so then what do they do, and who report? Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's an ego thing. Sorry, a bit of a tangent there, but I've always wondered. But yeah, like I said, I'm with you. I'd rather an offensive guy, but as long as there's a clear, like I said, delineation of skills and duties, then you can live with it, and it's a lot easier. But hopefully one more year with Brady, a full off season with Brady, to see what he sees on first down, to see where like parts of the field that he would rather attack earlier in the game, things like that. And I think Leftwich has the capability and the goodwill from around the league to like that he's going to get the benefit of the doubt to go ahead and do it this year. But you said it. It wasn't great last year. Their offense bogged down a lot, considering everyone that they had, right?
Yeah. Even like against that Washington defense, right, in the wild card round, like there were some struggles there as well, even.
Yeah, which is saying something. And I know Washington had a good defense, but
the defense, like that young secondary, Todd Bowles and co, bailed him at that offense out quite a few times.
For sure. So great call about Leftwich kind of being the guy to watch. Sorry, I'm broken record, but when you bring everyone back and everyone looks pretty good and everyone's saying the right things about how hungry they are and that they're not satisfied with one, and I don't know, man, like it's pretty exciting, and they're my pick to win the division, to bury the lead here a bit. It's not a shocker, but I think they're definitively the best team. Great chance to have home field throughout the NFC playoffs and make it back to another Super Bowl.
I like it, Cap. On that note, like how do you have the division shaken out? Let's put a bow on this.
Well, we're missing our bow. See, that's funny. We usually have a bow to put on everything. Sorry, Bowden, I miss you. I'm gonna go Bucs, Panthers, Saints, Falcons, and I know that's bucking. Oh God, I'm all over them right now. Bucking the trend a little bit, but like I said, I don't know what to do with the Saints, and I guess I'm gonna, draw a line in the sand with them finally having that drop off year. Where are you at?
I have the exact same.
Oh wow, we're fun, eh?
I got yeah, no kidding, eh? God. I have Bucs, Panthers, Saints, Falcons. Yeah.
Bucs, Panthers, Saints. Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's how it's going to shake out. I just think that the Panthers are doing something over there that's going to this year pay some immediate dividends. I mean, obviously Sam Darnold has to at least be serviceable, but I think he has it in him, and I think he's in the right situation with the right weapons around him to do that. Just like we agreed on earlier. So I just think there's too much uncertainty amongst the Saints and what's going on there. And you talked about their lack of receivers, especially when you consider Michael Thomas is out. we'll see what kind of magic Sean Payton can pull. Like I could also see Jameis really running away with that job and being very productive as well. And in that case, maybe it's the Saints are well ahead of the Panthers. But if I gotta put my name behind it, I'm gonna call that the Panthers, just like you. I think we'll finish.
I totally agree. So here are the win totals for everyone. 11.5 for Tampa. So we can probably talk about that. Where would you be there?
I would go over.
I think 12-5 is pretty comfy.
12-5 is a nice,
seem crazy.
Attainable good season.
Yeah. 11-6 seems like it would be feels like a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah.
So okay, and then sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just like the Bucs went 11-5 this past year, with all that stuff going on, and one last game.
Were they 10-6? Oh no. Whatever. Either way, they were right around there. I don't have the regular season records up.
Yeah, they're 11-5.
Oh, okay, my bad. So there you go. Okay, and then New Orleans at 8.5, and then Atlanta and Carolina both at 7.5. So, picking Carolina to outdo New Orleans isn't crazy based on the odds makers this year.
Right.
So we're in lockstep there. Tampa minus 200 to win the division, so you have to bet 200 to win 100. The Saints plus 300, the Falcons plus 700, and the Panthers bringing up the rear at plus 900. Yeah, see, I don't see any value in those other teams at all.
No, I think the Bucs are gonna take the division no matter how they play.
Me too. I think if you got a juicier number,
I think Blaine Gabbert could win the division as a quarterback. Of the Bucs.
Oh God, good for him. Super Bowl champ. So I just don't see any value in those teams at all, barring something monumental. It seems like the Bucs division to lose. Absolutely. As much as I like Carolina, I don't think taking a shot on them at plus 900 is worth it. I'd rather look at them just to make the playoffs. I don't have those odds in front of me, but that would be where I would lay some capital down.
Yeah, no, your insight is always valuable, and it'll be fun to see how it shakes out, man, for sure. So we will see
what's your overarching Bucs thought going into this year? Just general excitement, just gratitude that you have this roster to cheer for. Where are you?
Yeah, gratitude's a great word. We kind of mentioned that earlier. That I think is important just for what all Bucs fans have gone through over the past 20 or so seasons, almost 19. But also to be, don't freak out if things don't, if there's still some growing pains. Good teams struggle. It's the NFL. It's no joke. Every game's very important, and it's easy to get outcoached or outperformed on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially on the road, and especially when you're feeling yourself a little too much, which is my only fear. You want them to be confident. You want them to be on the same page. All indications are the team has a good mind, and they got the best leader in pro sports, you could argue, at the helm.
Yeah.
In his best version of himself mentally. Tom Brady just seems to be in a more comfortable space than he ever was in New England. He felt like a robot, like he was in shackles all the time. I don't know. So everything feels so good that I just feel like hopefully something doesn't go wrong. But I mean, they look great. Gratitude is the word.
They look great, man. I'm so happy to get to talk about them going forward with you guys this season and just the NFL in general. And we're like a couple weeks away from real football here. And, it's nice turning on the preseason and seeing a couple guys, but not the same thing, not the same intensity, not the same speed. Coaches aren't doing anything, right? It's so vanilla, but we're getting there, dude. And that's our last 8 divisions, all 32 teams talked about.
That's right.
As well as anyone on the internet has talked about all 32. So just throwing that out there.
There it is. Go back and catch them if you're interested in any of the other divisions. All of our podcasts can be seen in video form on our YouTube channel at Bucs Banter, or you can just listen as you see here on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as well. So thank you for listening. Nice to complete the division preview series. We'll still have a good number of episodes out before the NFL season kicks off versus the Dallas Cowboys Thursday night. And can't wait to get closer to that night because it's going to be a lot of fun and there's going to be tons of stuff, real football to talk about. So thank you for joining us, as always, on the Bucs Banter podcast, coming at you live on Bucs Report. Until next time, talk to you soon.